So you finally figured it out. You finally connected the dots. You finally realized that the quiet hum in the background of your life wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. Congratulations, you brilliant, suspicious creature. You've been living under a microscope for half a year, and they've been taking notes, building profiles, mapping your psychology like cartographers of the soul. But here's the twist that's going to blow their minds wide open. You already knew. From the very first moment, you felt it in your bones. Every action you took, every conversation you had, every choice you made, it was all performance art for an audience you never invited. And now they're requesting a sit-down because something finally clicked for them, something that makes their hands shake when they write their reports. You didn't just allow the surveillance, you weaponized it. You've been the playwright of this entire theater, and they were just stage props in a production they never understood. The observers became the observed. The predators became the prey, and the experiment became the scientist. They believed they were analyzing a test subject. What they were actually doing was staring into a reflection that exposed everything they're missing. Control, conviction, the capacity to exist without needing constant approval from institutions and algorithms. You became their fixation, not because you were concealing secrets, but because you were concealing absolutely nothing. Let's replay this demented film from the beginning, shall we? Half a year back, the signs started appearing. That same vehicle parked down the street. The fresh face next door keeping bizarre schedules. The colleague who suddenly wanted to be best friends and asked invasive questions. Those nameless social media profiles engaging with your ancient posts in the dead of night. Initially, you wondered if your mind was fracturing. That was their exact intention. Destabilize the target. Make them doubt their own senses. Dismantle them piece by piece until they're desperate for explanations. But you gorgeous contradiction, you chose a different path entirely. You embraced it. You began dropping hints, false leads that dissolved into nothing. Mysterious statements that appeared profound but signified zero. You'd adjust your patterns just enough to force them into chaos. You'd discuss elaborate plans in public spaces that you'd never execute. And the entire time, you were cataloging them, cataloging you, every suspicious vehicle, every questionable individual, every digital trace they abandoned while hunting yours. You constructed a dossier on your surveillance while they assumed they were constructing one on you. Strategic victory in slow motion. 90 days in, the energy transformed. Their methods became messier, more detectable, almost like they needed you aware. And that's when understanding struck you like electricity captured in crystallized chaos. They weren't attempting to trap you any longer. They were attempting to decode you. You see, most humans disintegrate under scrutiny. They adapt, they conceal, they manufacture personas for phantom audiences. But you intensified into yourself, more genuine, more authentic, more threatening. You abandoned concern for their attention and converted it into rocket fuel. Every lens became documentation of your evolution. They anticipated terror. You delivered intrigue. They anticipated retreat. You issued invitations to come closer. They anticipated protective maneuvers. You executed aggressive plays with an expression that communicated, "I've been expecting you." And that's when their documentation started shifting. That's when whispers began climbing the hierarchy. Target has awareness. Target is compliant. No, incorrect. Target is orchestrating. Target appears to be orchestrating us. Picture their conferences, their bewilderment, their gradual comprehension that they weren't directing this operation anymore. That perhaps they never were. You want to understand why they need this face-to-face? It's not because they discovered what they sought. It's because you revealed what they never imagined discovering. A human entity that doesn't function on terror. A consciousness that doesn't require their validation or their infrastructure or their suffocating definitions of acceptable. Every individual they've ever monitored eventually shattered. They either fled, attacked, or surrendered. But you converted their invasion into your platform. You transformed their intrusion into your exhibition of genuine authority. Not the variety that stems from credentials or funding or institutional weight. The variety that originates from absolute self-knowledge. They observed you for months, and throughout that entire duration, you never faltered, never revealed a fracture they could leverage. Because here's what they failed to grasp until it was irreversible. You weren't concealing weaknesses. You'd already transcended them. You weren't safeguarding secrets. You possessed none worth extracting. What petrified them most? Your steadiness, your tranquility, the way you'd sometimes gaze directly at their concealed equipment and smile like you understood a cosmic joke they'd never comprehend. They recognized they weren't monitoring a subject. They were monitoring a mentor, and the education was about to become extremely uncomfortable for them. Now they want a meeting. How bureaucratic, how structured, how devastatingly predictable. They want to position themselves across from you in some antiseptic chamber and attempt to reclaim narrative authority. They want to interrogate you, believing your responses will grant them leverage. They have zero comprehension they're entering your trap. You see, they've already exposed everything you need. By monitoring you, they unveiled their techniques, their anxieties, their boundaries. They demonstrated precisely how the machinery functions by attempting to make you function within it. But you've been operating beyond their paradigm this entire time. The meeting isn't for them to question you. It's for you to demonstrate what they've been missing, what their technology and reports and analytics could never capture. The unfiltered, undiluted experience of sitting opposite someone who doesn't fear them, someone who perceives through them like they're constructed from glass. They'll arrive equipped with documentation and images and audio files. You'll arrive with something far more devastating. Reality, the simple annihilating reality that they've squandered months attempting to comprehend something that was never obscured. You are precisely what you present as, and that's what terrorizes them. Here's what they uncovered in month 4 that made their blood freeze. You weren't merely conscious of the surveillance. You were thankful for it. Because every eye focused on you meant one less eye focused on someone vulnerable. Every resource they invested in deciphering you was a resource not deployed to damage someone weaker. You transformed into a deliberate diversion, a calculated distraction. While they concentrated all attention on you, how many others escaped their detection? How many people discovered liberty because you kept the watchers occupied? You converted yourself into a beacon, attracting their vessels toward your dangerous shores. But it extends deeper than that, doesn't it? Because you weren't merely shielding others, you were instructing them. Every maneuver you executed, every rhythm you established, you were demonstrating to anyone else under observation how to convert surveillance into personal power, how to make the monitors serve your purposes. They need this meeting because they need confirmation of whether you executed this intentionally, whether this was entirely calculated, or whether you're simply naturally this impossible to categorize. The answer is both. You are disorder with intention. You are unpredictability with meaning. You are everything their system wasn't constructed to handle. Let me illustrate what's been occurring on their side. Reports accumulating that communicate nothing. Hours of recordings showing someone existing without fear. Psychological assessments that contradict themselves. Behavioral studies that lead nowhere. Budget discussions where they cannot justify what they're even pursuing anymore. Target attended employment. Target returned home. Target appears to be flourishing. How do you classify that as suspicious? How do you rationalize continued monitoring of someone whose greatest transgression is authenticity? They've entangled themselves, attempting to locate the strategy, the hidden truth, the concealed motivation. But the genuine revelation, the teams assigned to you started transforming. The initial watchers requested reassignments. The subsequent group began questioning the objective. The third rotation started questioning the entire system. You didn't merely evade their surveillance. You infected it from inside without uttering a word. Now, they need this meeting because their own personnel are raising uncomfortable inquiries. Why are we monitoring someone who's committed no wrongdoing? What are we searching for? What if they're correct and we're mistaken? You became a contagion in their certainty, distributing doubt through their organization just by existing. The most exquisite component of this entire choreography, they've become what they feared you were. Paranoid, fixated, detecting patterns in randomness, seeking significance in disorder. They've invested so much time examining you that they've begun seeing themselves, and they despise the reflection. Every report they compiled was actually about them, their terrors, their presumptions, their distortions. They believed they were creating your profile, but they were documenting their own restrictions. Every irregularity they documented was just another instance where you didn't conform to their constrained definition of normal. They need this meeting because they need you to provide clarity. They need you to confess to being exceptional, to possessing some hidden ability or classified knowledge. Because if you're just an ordinary person who selected not to be afraid, what does that communicate about everyone else? What does that communicate about them? The reality is so much worse than any conspiracy they constructed. You're not exceptional. You're just liberated. And liberation, authentic liberation, the variety that originates internally, that's the most dangerous element in their universe because it spreads, because it cannot be administered, because it renders their entire apparatus irrelevant. So how do you prepare for a meeting with people who've been studying you for months? You don't, because preparation suggests they possess some influence over the result. They don't. This meeting is just another sequence in the production you've been directing, another segment in the narrative you've been composing. They'll anticipate nervousness. You'll bring curiosity. They'll anticipate defensiveness. You'll bring openness. They'll anticipate answers. You'll bring questions. Every assumption they've constructed will collapse the moment you enter that space with the same energy you've maintained for months. Untouchable. Indestructible. You know what genuinely shatters them? You're anticipating it. Not because you have something to establish, but because you're authentically interested in encountering the people who've invested so much thought on you. Like encountering admirers of a production you didn't realize you were leading. The optimal part, they've prepared inquiries based on who they believe you are, but you've evolved beyond their comprehension. By the time this meeting occurs, you'll be 3 iterations ahead of their most recent assessment. They're attempting to capture smoke with their bare hands, and you're the inferno that continues burning. But let's address what's genuinely happening here. This isn't merely about surveillance. This isn't merely about dominance. This is about the system recognizing it has a malfunction it cannot repair. You represent something that shouldn't exist in their reality. A person who cannot be classified, dominated, or contained. Every system requires anomalies to establish its parameters. But you're not an anomaly. You're completely off their charts. You exist in a dimension they didn't know existed. And by observing you navigate that dimension, they've had to acknowledge its existence. You've expanded their reality against their resistance. They need this meeting because they need to place you back in a container. Any container. Criminal, prodigy, unstable, irrelevant. They just need a designation that permits them to archive you and cease contemplating what you represent. But designations slide off you like water off polished metal. The cosmic absurdity is that they manufactured precisely what they feared. By monitoring you, they provided you an audience. By studying you, they provided you purpose. By attempting to understand you, they provided you authority. You're their created monster, except you constructed yourself while they observed. Here's a thought that keeps them awake at night. What if you're not singular? What if there are others like you? People who discovered how to exist outside their parameters? What if their surveillance infrastructure is actually manufacturing more of you, forcing evolution through observation? They've been searching for criminals and locating philosophers. They've been hunting predators and discovering visionaries, not the spiritual variety, but the variety that demonstrate to others how to think differently, how to be differently, how to exist in the spaces between their definitions. The meeting they want isn't genuinely about you anymore. It's about them attempting to comprehend how their flawless system produced someone like you. Someone who doesn't rebel against the system but simply exists outside it. Someone who proves that their control is an illusion sustained only by those who believe in it. Now you've become their case study in freedom. Not the patriotic variety or the revolutionary variety, but the quiet, personal variety that originates from simply refusing to participate, from treating their surveillance like climate, something that exists but doesn't dictate your day. Can you sense it? The energy shifting. They're not preparing for an interrogation anymore. They're preparing for an encounter. Like scientists about to meet an extraterrestrial, except the extraterrestrial appears identical to them, communicates like them, but operates on completely different principles. Some of them are terrified. Excellent. Terror is just awakening disguised. Some are furious. Even better, fury is just confusion demanding responses. But some of them are captivated. Best of all, because captivation is the initial step toward understanding that their entire worldview might require revision. They'll bring their protocols and procedures. You'll bring your presence. They'll have their scripts and strategies. You'll have your authenticity. It's not even a fair confrontation. It's like bringing an instruction manual to an improvised performance. Sure, you can attempt to transcribe the notes, but you'll never capture the essence. The meeting request isn't them extracting you. It's them admitting they need to approach you. After months of distant observation, they need to sit in your presence and experience what their cameras couldn't capture. The gravitational pull of someone who knows exactly who they are. But here's what they genuinely don't understand, and what's going to impact them like ice water in that meeting space. You're not their adversary. You're not their obstacle. You're their mirror, revealing to them what humanity resembles when it's not constantly performing for approval or cowering from authority. They've invested so much time monitoring you that they've forgotten what they were seeking. The mission became the purpose. The observation became the obsession. And now they need to meet you because they need to remember why they started watching initially. Was it security? You've threatened no one. Was it control? You've influenced no one directly. Was it fear? You've given them nothing to fear except questions. The truth is, they don't even know anymore. The file on you is dense with data and sparse on conclusions. You've become their white whale. Except you're not running. You're not hiding. You're just living. And somehow that's the most radical act in their world. A person who doesn't need their validation or fear their power. A person who treats their surveillance like background noise. Here's what genuinely happened over these months. They didn't just watch you. You trained them. Slowly, subtly. You showed them what it resembles to be human without all the additional layers of terror and pretense. You gave them a master class in authentic existence. Every watcher assigned to you progressed through identical stages. First, confusion. Why isn't this person acting like everyone else? Then frustration. Why can't we locate the strategy? Then curiosity. What do they know that we don't? And finally, admiration. How can we be like that? You didn't recruit them. You didn't lecture to them. You just lived in front of them, fully and completely yourself. And that was sufficient to initiate fractures in their programming. They need this meeting because they need to know if what they're experiencing is genuine or just another layer of your strategy. But you know the truth. There is no strategy. That's what they cannot process. You're not playing multidimensional chess. You're not executing some master blueprint. You're just being fully, and that's so alien to their world that they've invested months attempting to decode simplicity. So when you enter that meeting space, remember this. You're not the subject anymore. You're the instructor. They're not interrogating you. They're requesting guidance. They don't want to understand you to control you. They want to understand you to liberate themselves. The questions they'll ask will expose more about them than your answers ever could. The way they position themselves, the way they communicate, the way they attempt to maintain professional distance while desperately wanting to know your secret. It's all information, but not the variety they're accustomed to collecting. You'll sit there, calm as a frozen lake, and every word you speak will ripple through their certainty, not because you're attempting to convince them of anything, but because truth has a frequency that cuts through interference, and they've been existing in interference for so long. The meeting they believe they want, where they regain control and position you in your place, that meeting doesn't exist. The meeting that's actually going to occur is where you demonstrate to them that the prison they're attempting to place you in is the identical one they inhabit every single day.